Hi, I'm Matt with State of Flux, here to talk to you about the film Jersey Girl. This is sort of a film that gets unfairly maligned, and I don't really get it. In historical context of when it came out, this was when Ben Affleck and Jennifer Lopez were all over the tabloids. Their relationship, the whole Bennifer thing, really took the nation by storm until the nation got so sick of them that they were just like begging for an excuse to turn on them. And that excuse came with the film Gigli. This film was originally supposed to be released in 2003, however it got pushed back a few months to February of 2004 to give it some distance from Gigli, which I do think was a little fairly attacked, though it wasn't as awful as some people made it out to be. It certainly had no business having the caliber of performances, or caliber of acting in that movie, both of whom gave terrible performances with a terrible screenplay. But this isn't a review about Gigli, and that kind of gets to the point that I'm trying to make. The residual energy and hatred that Gigli had got kind of dumped on this film. And if you read reviews from the time, a lot of them really kind of anchor in on the Gigli hate and bring that to this film, where they tried to one-up each other with how mean they could be about this film, which really truthfully isn't that bad. The one thing this film has that Kevin Smith's previous 5 films didn't is a formula. The originality behind particularly Clerks, Chasing Amy, Dogma, and even to some extent Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back is gone here. This movie is kind of built around a formula that most people were familiar with. Sorry, my cat is using this moment to scratch at his scratching post. I apologize for that. Anyway, this movie follows a very kind of basic family film formula of the father figure or parental figure who kind of disappoints child figure and has to come together to redeem themselves. This is sort of the same basic principle that Adam Sandler has built his entire career with, and this film falls into that. However, the direction the movie takes within its formula framework is pretty original, and I really appreciated that. As I said up front, I think this film is unfairly maligned. I would go on to say that this is one of Kevin Smith's best movies, for a multitude of reasons. First of all, this is his first dip into mainstream. His first 4 films were nowhere near like mainstream material. They tried to argue that Mallrats was designed for the mainstream, and if that movie had been released now, it very much would be. But back at the time of its release, every element of that movie is really kind of designed around a very specific, small clique of people that there's no way that movie could break into a mainstream. The Weinsteins heavily tried to argue that Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, or advertise that Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back was for the mainstream, but the mainstream didn't go to it because if you hadn't seen the 4 previous movies, that movie doesn't work. Jersey Girl is his first true mainstream film. He will have 2 more true mainstream films that will come out after this one. But this is his first tiptoe into that direction. And what he does is make a really genuinely competent attempt at a mainstream format, while also still hearkening in on the Smith-isms that really make his material work. And whatnot. I'm going to take a quick pause here. Sorry about that, you might have seen a little jump. That was my garbage man came to pick up the garbage a whole hour earlier than he's normally here. But that kind of goes into what I'm saying. The whole effing world was against this movie, I swear to God. The planets aligned to really sink this film. And that's unfortunate, because as Smith's first tiptoe into the realm of mainstream success, had this movie been released before Gigli, like when the Bennifer buzz was really positive and strong, or, you know, maybe like 3 years after that, around the time that like Gone Baby Gone had come out, and people started turning back around as Ben Affleck as an artistic force behind the camera, I think the world would have reacted to this movie entirely different. It is funny. Kevin Smith's movies are all funny, and this proves that you don't have to use the really kind of crass sense of humor that he was known for to really make a movie that is genuinely laugh out loud funny. There's some lines in here that make me like laugh hysterically every time I see it. It has it wears its heart on its shirt sleeve, like most of Kevin Smith's good movies do. He is a really, like, genuinely sentimental individual, and this movie, I think, is his most honest with regards to his relationship to parenting and his daughter. And it's not afraid to go to some of those dark places where you might have like momentary resentment of having a kid when your life was going so strong as a single person or even as a married person, and suddenly you have a child and you can't live the life that you had prepared yourself so long to live. There's an exceptional scene that sort of begins the third act where the father and daughter have a screaming match that ends in tears, and it's like I saw this in the theater, and the few people that were in the theater with me like just absolutely gasped. And every time I've watched this movie with another individual, they have the same exact reaction. This like unbelievable kind of sense like release, and it's pretty potent. This film has a visual language that his previous 5 films lacked. This sort of shows the maturity in direction. Now, I don't know if this is a Smith thing or a producerial thing that came from Scott Mosier or even the Weinsteins above them, but getting Vilmos Zsigmond to come in and photograph this movie was a brilliant choice. The lighting in this film is great, and I think next to one other movie, this is Kevin Smith's best looking movie. It looks professional. It looks polished. Whereas part of the appeal to Smith's early works, Clerks, Chasing Amy in particular, is that they kind of lack polish. This movie required it and really, really soars with that polish. It has a lovely little score. It has a pretty solid soundtrack. And it doesn't lose Smith's other sensibilities even though it is humor and humor guided and geared more towards family, there's still like a thread of sexual-based humor that he is most known for with the Liv Tyler character, who is writing a thesis paper on sexual relationships of different men, and she takes an interest in Ben Affleck's character in this film, Oliver, because he's a single father who rents porn and whatnot. And that's a very Smith thing to do. You don't see that in your average family film. This is a pretty edgy PG-13 for the time, but it's also definitely very family-friendly as well. I want to get to, so I haven't discussed the plot. The plot is also one of the kind of more unique things. Even though it's based and built around a framework that is formulaic, it has some unusual touches, which I really kind of responded well to. The movie starts off as your traditional romance. Ben meets Jen, they fall in love. You build that relationship over the course of 10 minutes and a couple pretty solid meet cute scenes, and find out that she's pregnant. They have said baby, the Jersey girl in question, and then tragedy strikes. Jennifer Lopez dies in childbirth, and then Ben Affleck is forced to raise this child on his own. He tanks his career he's a very famous music publicist, and he trashes his client, who's the Fresh Prince, who's this movie's set in the past. So Fresh Prince has a movie coming out, and he's like, yeah, nobody's gonna watch a Fresh Prince movie. Nobody gives a shit about Independence Day kind of thing. The world turns on him when he trash talks his own client. He's forced to move back into his home in Jersey to raise his kid with his own father. And the movie jumps 7 years, and you sort of see the moment of clarity that Ollie needs over the course of the next 2 acts of the film, where he goes from being sort of thesis statement of this film is forget about who you thought you were and just accept who you are. And I feel like that's really a powerful message on some level, but then one that after this film didn't perform very well, Smith took to heart in a kind of negative way. I'll touch on that towards the end. I really want to talk about the performances. Ben Affleck gives an exceptional performance in this movie, easily one of his best in his career. He gets kind of attacked unfairly for his performance in this movie, but again, I feel like that's residual energy from Gigli. He's good in this movie. He has 3 very powerful scenes. He even has a singing and dancing number that's pretty alright. Like, I'd buy this dude being in a musical at some point. He's probably gotten to the stage in his career where that'll never happen, but when I first watched this, I was like, I could see them making like a Chicago-esque kind of movie, and he's a playable, viable character in it. Yeah, Affleck's fantastic. The scene where he first learns of J-Lo's passing, his extreme grief is so palpable and so flawlessly executed. A couple scenes later where he has his first real moment with the baby Gertie, where he's holding her in his hands as like a newborn, or two-week-old at that point, is also really, really strong bit of dramatic work. And then his argument with Gertie towards the end. And then he has a great moment with the surprise cameo of the film, who is Will Smith, where the two just sort of chat fatherhood, and the two bounce off of each other fantastically. Liv Tyler is so charming and so lovable in this movie. She takes a character that, as written, is pretty interesting in and of herself, but she brings an energy to it and a playfulness that is so incredibly good. This is, for my money, her best performance in any movie that she's been in. She kind of also got unfairly attacked in the reviews, which I don't get. I think she is spectacular in the movie. The little girl, Raquel Castro, as Gertie, is so good. She, I think this is really her only movie. She didn't really continue on with the acting thing. I think she got more interested in like stage and music kind of work. But she's very good and charming as this great 7-year-old girl who looks just like she could be the daughter of Jennifer Lopez. Jennifer Lopez is quite good in her few scenes. I hear that there was the original framework of this movie was that the first half was going to be all Ben and Jen, and the second half was raising the Jersey girl in question. Once Gigli tanked, they re-edited the movie and scaled her down to just being in the movie for 10 minutes. So there's like a missing half hour out there somewhere for this movie that they talk about at one point on the DVD of releasing, but I'm guessing that just never happened, and now that the Weinsteins are no longer a thing, I don't think it ever will, which is a shame. I'd like to see that alternate cut of Jersey Girl. Jason Biggs has a small little role, and with the exception of one moment, he's really quite good. He restrains himself. He has a tendency to overact when he's trying to be funny, and that's kind of a shame because he is a genuinely good actor. When he's in his more dramatic moments or when he's being real. The one moment where he really breaks that is when Ali gets fired from his job and he is crying while Ali's putting stuff away. His crying is like it's like so overacted. That's really one of only the few moments in this movie that I didn't respond well to. But yeah, I think this movie is genuinely laugh out loud funny. It is, its dramatic moments really work. They feel earned. They don't feel artificial in any way. They don't feel like it's manufactured. The musical number that they choose to do in the movie is Sweeney Todd. I'm a big Sweeney Todd fan, so I responded well to that. The other moment in this movie that I did not respond well is after they perform the musical. And there's just like deafening silence for like 10 seconds, and then they cut to that guy in the audience who like starts the slow clap, and he like bumps the person next to him, and then he gets all into it, and then everybody claps. That's really hokey. I wouldn't have done that. I would have just had people been like, and then only have like half the audience clap, and some people just like, what's wrong with you? This is a children's performance at a Catholic school kind of thing. Other than that, those are really the two only moments in the movie that I don't respond well to. Everything else is funny. It has setups to jokes that pay off really well, like the flushing of the toilet. He captures what it's like to have a small child living in your house so well. I have a girl who's almost the same age as Gertie is in this movie, and I go through the same thing of like, did you flush the toilet? Did you wash your hands? That whole thing, which I know is a common sort of trope, but it's very, very real. They have a joke set up within this film that works so well with that. Yeah, this movie's great. The one last person I didn't talk about that I need to is George Carlin. George Carlin gives an incredibly strong, mostly dramatic performance as the alcoholic father of Ben Affleck. And they never really hone in on his alcoholism. It doesn't become like one of those kind of movies. It's just sort of there in the background of that story. And he is very good. He's very real. He's very honest, and you could see that this man had a performance hidden in him that we unfortunately will never get to see, because the world just took him as the funny guy, the 7 swear words you can't see on TV guy, and he's great when he does that. And when he is in movies like Bill and Ted, yeah, he's fun and he's funny, but he had a dramatic element to him that never got purged, and that's unfortunate. We are a lesser world for not getting the dramatic George Carlin performance we all deserved for some future movie that never happened. But anyway, I love this movie. I love how honest it is in the relationship with the child. It doesn't glorify it beyond the truth of how what it's like to raise a young person, boy, girl, whatever. I love the relationship that Gertie and Ollie have in the movie. It is so real. I love how he talks to her, and I think there's important messages of like speaking to your child in an elevated language. And if they have questions about what those words mean, explain them. That's what you're there to do. Don't baby talk and stuff like that. None of this is on the forefront of the movie, but it's all kind of there. It is an interesting guideline to how to raise a child a specific way, and also what not to do. And I think Smith, kind of chasing Amy's style, purged some of his poorer habits of being a parent or living the life he thought he had before, when he became a parent, through this movie, and really kinds of all of his movies follow a main character who's kind of the idiot character in the film. You get that with Dante. You get that with certainly with Holden, and Ollie Trinky in this film is kind of the same way. Even though they're the main character, they're not the one that you're necessarily supposed to identify with throughout the whole thing. They're the ones that are going on the learning journey of self-discovery, where they change from beginning, middle, and end. And I think that's one thing that people did have a problem with, is that Ben Affleck doesn't come off very likable in this movie. He's a charming actor, so he makes certain scenes likable, but really he's not a likable character, and some of his actions are downright bad in this movie. But that's the point. He's learning, and he grows and changes in kind of a unique way. But yeah, I love Jersey Girl. This is, for me, an easy 4-star movie. I responded well to it when I first saw it. I remember dragging my friends to it, and they're like, we're going to see another Jay and Silent Bob movie, because I told them it's a Kevin Smith movie, and some of them liked it and liked the more mature direction that the film took. Even though this is a PG-13, it's definitely more mature direction than some of his previous films. And some of them just downright loathed it, because they're like, where are the dick and fart jokes? And yeah, that is kind of the unfortunate nature of the film as well. Unfortunately, because this movie tanked, Smith took the wrong lesson from it. But he took a lesson that recharacterizes a phrase in the film, and he applied it to his career moving forward, which I think is a shame. And that was the whole thesis statement of forget about who you thought you were and just accept who you are. I feel like once this movie tanked, he was like, who am I kidding? I'm not a filmmaker. I'm not... this was an honest stab at a filmmaking career beyond the View Askew universe that he'd created. And had this movie been a success, we might have seen a Smith-led career where he took kind of formulaic studio frames and did his take on them. And that would have been a fine career trajectory to go. I would have liked to have seen that. Unfortunately, that isn't what happened. And so he kind of like applied that message to be like, who am I kidding? I'm not a filmmaker. I'm the guy who made Clerks. So I'm gonna just make Clerks again, because he did clearly have a story he wanted to tell with Clerks 2 that you will see, and I don't think it's a bad one, but I do think that it is sort of the beginning of the big problems that Smith will take over the middle chapter of his career. And kind of, to some extent, is a little bit of the Smith that we have today. If you watch his like podcasts and stuff, which I do, and I do find them quite amusing some of the time, particularly Fat Man Beyond, formerly Fat Man and Batman. He talks about that, and in his Smodcast where he first started it, where like the emo Kev stuff. If anybody's ever like just YouTube emo Kev, it's one of the funniest things you'll ever hear. It's like 4 hours long, but oh my god, is it amazing! But he points out something that you can tell has become an artificial element of the character of Kevin Smith that he has kind of embodied for the past 20 years now. And that is that he is this sort of immature sophomoric dude who like should constantly be cursing, constantly making the gross sexual based humor and stuff like that, because at a certain point within the emo Kev thing, he's like, where's the Kev that everybody remembers, or that everybody knows and likes? There's not one single curse in any of this stuff. And I think that's because he the lesson learned from this movie is that people don't like him when he's being honest and being mature. People like it when he has like bong saber fights. People like it when he has stink palm humor. People like it when he has the interspecies erotica. And I don't think that's necessarily the case, and I think that's why his fan base has remained incredibly loyal, because the movies he made moving forward kind of live in that sophomoric world. But I think he really lost a lot of certainly like a lot of the critics kind of jumped ship on him, starting with this movie, again, unfairly, but a lot of the critics kind of jumped ship with him because they saw that there was talent there that has gone unexcavated. Like, he was truly a like chunk of rock. We haven't had he started to form what that rock was going to be. Was it going to be this epic sculpture? Was there going to be a fossil underneath to erect a giant like dinosaur skeleton? You know, we don't know. He never got to that point. This was his first real attempt at like chiseling that away, and that kind of fell by the wayside after this movie. But I've been talking a long time about Jersey Girl. However, there was a lot to unpack here. For as slight of a movie as it is, it really is kind of the turning point for Smith's career. Next week we will talk Clerks 2, where there will be another interesting set of elements to unpack. The next like 3 or 4 movies are really gonna be kind of interesting in how we address them. But yeah, I love Jersey Girl, and I think this is one of his best movies. It's sort of inarguably so, and if you haven't seen it in a long time, do yourself a favor, go back. This movie is good, it's funny, it is heartfelt. It brings me to tears in 2 separate points. The final scene of the movie with the characters slow dancing in this exact silhouetted form is gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous. And every single time leaves me just like streaming the tears. So yeah, give Jersey Girl another shot. That's what this entire 25-minute plea to you is. But thanks for watching. Peace.